charged with concocting a multi-million-dollar bribery scheme involving President Biden's family is set to appear in a California federal court today, as a judge will decide whether he must remain behind bars while he awaits trial. Jackie Walker has more.
Special counsel David Weiss's office is pressing the judge to keep Alexander Smirnov in jail, arguing the man who claims to have ties to Russian intelligence is likely to flee the country. Smirnov is charged with falsely telling the FBI that executives from the Ukrainian energy company Burisma had paid Biden and his son Hunter $5 million each. The claim became central to the Republican impeachment inquiry of the president. I'm Julie Walker.
Down on Wall Street, the Dow is down 20 points, but the NASDAQ ahead 5. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The new FedNow system is paving the way for the digital dollar. It grants the government unprecedented access to your financial transactions. This isn't just an invasion of privacy. It's a direct assault on your liberty and hard-earned money. It's another reason why I recommend physical gold IRAs from the Birch Gold Group. I'm Lance Wallnow. I'm a news analyst and a podcaster with nearly 25 million downloads to people just like you who cherish their financial independence. A precious metals IRA can help you avoid the scrutiny of Big Brother while also preserving your retirement savings through almost anything, including economic crashes, political instability, and even hyperinflation. To find out more, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word FAITH to 989898. Birch Gold Group is the only gold company I trust. Get their free info kit and see how a gold IRA can help you. Text FAITH to 989898. Remember, there's no strings attached. Text FAITH and the number 989898 right now.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Lots of crazy weather coming up. Nice and warm today. In fact, 2 days of record heat. Today and tomorrow will be close to or above 80 degrees. Unfortunately, there's a critical fire danger today for St. Louis and St. Charles counties. Along with the record heat tomorrow, unfortunately, a chance for some severe thunderstorms, particularly late afternoon into the evening from the metro area southward. We're going to have to see where these develop and where they move. But again, that's tomorrow. And then a huge temperature crash. Temperatures in the 30s on Wednesday. Could even see a little snow in spots. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of Colombo and Katie brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com. Tony Colombo.
Libertarianism is all about individual liberty.
Katie Fitzpatrick.
Oh, good for you.
Colombo and Katie on News Talk STL.
Time to rise has been engaged. We're better best to rearrange. I'm talking here to me alone. I listen to the finest work song. The finest hour. The finest hour.
Hello and welcome to a new week and a warm day. Monday afternoon on Colombo and Katie on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Whoa. What was that?
Uh-oh, not the frog.
What was that? I had a glitch. I glitched. News Talk STL. Wow, that was weird. Okay. Well, hello. I'm Tony. That's Katie. Hope you are able to at least a little bit enjoy this beautiful day out there. It is, the watch says 70. Oh, there's a 79. 79.
Oh, my gosh. But the wind is whipping.
The wind
Oh,
is whipping.
whipping. I sat outside
You know
for
what
a little
I
bit today.
You know what I think about wind?
It's cool.
Wind is cool.
Wind is cool. I sat outside for a little bit today, and I came back in, and my hair looked like Farrah Fawcett. It was just like
Oh,
big, like
is that good or bad?
Well, like windy, like not like it was well done. It was just like big and just like whoof. That's the noise.
I didn't realize that Farrah Fawcett always looked like she'd been in a windstorm.
Yeah, that hair's pretty big.
All right.
I mean, it fit the criteria for the time, but looking back, That hair was big.
That's big hair.
And that's what I had.
That's wind hair.
That's wind hair.
All right. Well, hope you're able to avoid the wind hair and then have a great day out there today. It's 80 degrees. It's going to be 80 degrees tomorrow. And then tomorrow is like 80 degrees in the afternoon and then below freezing tomorrow night. Did you see how quick it turns?
But
look at your phone. Look at any forecast. Here, I'll go to the KMOV website right now.
why
I'll go to
is
Steve's.
that?
It is nuts. It is nuts. I don't think I've ever seen this on the same
Oh my
day.
gosh. No wonder why everybody's sick.
Okay, so looking at the Channel 4 website. Hold on a second.
This is for tomorrow?
Daily. Yeah. Hold on. Dang it.
This is why everybody is sick. I mean, I love the weather, so I really
Really?
can't be too much, but
The high on Tuesday, tomorrow, is 83. The low tomorrow is 31.
that's stupid.
From mid 80s
so
to
dumb.
below freezing on the same day.
That is so
That is-
ridiculous. What
that
kind of
is-
cold front is that?
That is crazy even for St. Louis. 85 is like you can swim
Yeah.
when it's 85
Oh,
degrees
yeah.
outside.
That's perfect swim.
You can swim when it's 85 degrees. It is from swimming weather to below freezing. I've seen some numbers that have the low in the 20s.
That's ridiculous.
Steve's got it at 31.
That is ridiculous. Thanks, St. Louis.
That is-
Why does that?
Tomorrow is going to be a wild ride.
This is why people are so sick right now because the weather can't make a decision. This is what Puxatawny Phil. This is what
He's thrown everything into chaos.
It's his fault.
You're blaming Phil?
I'm blaming Phil. I'm blaming the top hats. I'm blaming the coats.
Top hats.
The people wearing the top hats that put Phil in and out of that hole. All of them are to
I'm
blame.
blaming Phil, and I'm blaming the top hats.
Oh,
All
stupid
right.
top hats.
Well, sure. Whatever you got to do to make yourself feel good about yourself.
it does.
All right, where to start? I got lots of stuff today. I got local stuff. I got national news. I guess we should start with the South Carolina primary over the weekend. As she said she would, Nikki Haley lost, as she said she would, but also staying in the race like she said that she would. She said basically that she is putting it all on Super Tuesday, which I don't think is going to go very well for her either. But the South Carolina primary was on Saturday night over the weekend, and Donald Trump won, and that's Nikki Haley's home state. So you'd think that if she had any chance of a good showing in this primary process, it would have been on Saturday night in her home state. But Donald Trump won 60% to 40%, which I can't believe I'm going to say this because I know how ridiculous it sounds. That's closer than I think some people thought it was going to be. It's closer than I thought it was going to be,
Yeah.
20%.
Yeah, same.
I mean, that's still a landslide.
Yeah, mhm.
That's still a huge win. But when you're used to seeing numbers like, when you're used to seeing him up by 40 or 50%, 20% doesn't look so.
That is much closer
Big.
than I anticipated. I'll just
However,
admit
it's
that.
still a landslide. And the former UN ambassador is making good on her promise to stay in the race and is placing her bets on next month's Super Tuesday contests when 15 states, or just over a third of all delegates, will be up for grabs. She said, quote, "America will come apart if we make the wrong choices. This has never been about me or my political future. We need to beat Joe Biden in November, and I don't believe that Donald Trump can beat Joe Biden." This was on Saturday night at a gathering of her supporters in South Carolina. She went on to say, quote, "I said earlier this week, no matter what happens here in South Carolina, I would continue to run for president. I'm a woman of my word. I'm not going to give up this fight when a majority of Americans disapprove of both Donald Trump and Joe Biden." So Nikki Haley not leaving the race. However, I understand the case she's trying to make that the polls show that Donald Trump does not have the majority of Americans' support across the country. So if he doesn't have the support of the majority of Americans, you could make the case that means that he won't win the general election. However, those polls also show that Joe Biden doesn't have the majority of Americans. But if that's going to be your basis, if you're going to use those polls to make your argument, hey, look at all these polls. They show that Donald Trump doesn't have the majority of Americans on his side, and we need to beat Joe Biden. So we need, that's why we need somebody else besides Donald Trump. Well, if you're going to use those polls to make your case, those polls show that 80% of Americans don't support you for president. So you are not, by your own argument, you're an even worse candidate than Donald Trump. So I'm not sure that
I'm calling to take a word from Crane Durham, Bunny Stew, on Nikki Haley. Because, first of all, don't come at me, and Donald Trump does this too. I'm not running for myself.
Yeah, this isn't about me.
Okay.
This isn't about me.
Yeah, this isn't about me. Okay. And I mean, the same with Joe Biden and same with Barack Obama, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
You've got to have a superior ego to run to be the next president of the United States.
You do.
So first of all, Bunny Stew on that. But the second part is, and I couldn't agree with you more, if your argument is nobody wants Donald Trump or 50% doesn't want Donald Trump, even when Ron DeSantis, even when Vivek Ramaswamy was in this, even when Doug Burgum was in this, you have to put it in the position of, are you the person to beat Joe Biden when it comes down to brass tacks? And Donald Trump is not ideal. He probably isn't ideal for a lot of people. But if it was Nikki Haley against Joe Biden, who do you think would win? If it was even Ron DeSantis this election cycle against Joe Biden, who do you think would win? It's not ideal that Trump is the guy, but he is the guy, and he very well could be the only person that could beat Biden. I like Nikki. I like Ron. I even like Vivek. But I just don't think in 2024 those were the names to go up against even a weak, vulnerable, mentally unfit person like Joe Biden.
Yeah. Well, I think they would all beat Joe Biden.
You
I
do?
don't think anybody would beat. I don't think anybody would lose to Joe. I don't think anybody can lose to Joe Biden right now. And if they can, then we need to have a long talk with every voter in America.
I just
like a long sit down with everybody. Like, are you serious? You're going to put this country in this position? I do think that Donald Trump is in the best position to beat Joe Biden, but I just can't imagine. I just can't imagine anybody voting for Joe Biden.
You know what's really sucks to say, and it happened here, and it's happened over and over, specifically in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
This is why you and I think differently about endorsements. But this is why I think name recognition holds so much weight, and those endorsements from people that is a household name holds weight, because even if you go to Missouri, Republicans would vote for, I'm sure, Nikki Haley if that was the nominee. But Joe Biden's name, even though he is the guy, he is who he is, still holds a massive more amount of weight than a Nikki Haley.
That's why I think that Joe Biden, I agree with that. I agree with the name recognition being probably the most important thing in an election. I don't agree that name recognition of the people endorsing you has. I agree that we disagree on that, but I completely agree with you that name recognition, just popularity, or just awareness of a person is probably the biggest thing that you have to win an election, especially a national election. And that is exactly why I have said over and over again that I think that that's why Joe Biden is still the best Democratic nominee.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that too. Mm-hmm.
Which he's horrible.
He's horrible.
But I still think that he's got more name recognition and he's got more gravitas, unbelievably. There's a word that should never go with Joe Biden, but it does in this instance, that he is a better candidate, has a better chance of winning a national election over all the other Democrat candidates that have been floated out, except for Michelle Obama, which I still don't know is real. If that ends up being real, then that's a different story. Mm-hmm. But I think that Joe Biden has more name recognition and more popularity across the country than Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, J.B. Pritzker, Beto O'Rourke, all of the other Democrat names, Dean Phillips, who's the one running against him, even JFK or RFK Jr. I think that he's got more name recognition and popularity with Democrats than all of those candidates. I still think he's a terrible candidate, and I still think that anybody could win against him. Literally any Republican should be able to win that race, but I do think that he's still their best option, and I think that they know that, and that's why they keep limping along with him.
I also think in this time, and I know that we've said this so many times, but in our climate right now, people are looking for someone that is like Trump. And they can push the ego and the self-centered, personality and the over-exaggerating. They can push all of that aside if Donald Trump can be the bull in the china shop.
Yeah.
And
if he can make things better.
Yeah, and if he can, exactly, by shaking
because it's
it
bad.
up.
Everything's really bad right now.
Really bad.
The border is really bad. I'll probably we'll probably actually do that story next. It's a terrible border story today. Making news today. The border is horrible. Crime is horrible. The unrest with education and identity politics. People think that this country is in a bad spot right now, and they're right. And Joe Biden and his policies and the direction that his administration has gone is directly responsible for all of these bad things. So the people that were, even the people that were fed up with Trump in 2020, because there was definitely some Trump exhaustion.
Yeah.
In 2020.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of weirdness in that election as well, but there was also with Republican and conservative voters, there was some Trump exhaustion. People have either enough time has passed that people don't really remember the level of that exhaustion, or which I think part two is more likely, they're willing to put up with the things that they don't like about Donald Trump in order to fix the country. They're willing to put up with a president that is perfect, that can do no wrong, that has never said or done anything wrong, or never even misspoke in his entire life, and is constantly on social media and calling people names and things like that. They're willing to put up with all of that to fix the country.
Yeah. Well, I was someone that had Trump fatigue. I mean, it wasn't that I disliked the guy. It was just so much all happening at once. But I'll take too much Trump over nothing that ever happens with Joe Biden any day. I'll take Trump being everywhere, talking all of the time to every single person in the news. I'm saying that now. Maybe 3 years from now, I feel differently. But I'll take that over a man that goes to the beach and disappears for days while we're in crisis, over a man that doesn't talk to the press, doesn't do interviews, doesn't speak from the podium. I mean, the guy is nowhere to be found. And I don't know how the pendulum swung
the lights
so
are
far.
out.
Yeah, it is. It's weekends only. It's Monday. We're closed. The lights are out.
You're right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And when the lights are on, the stories are that he's mean.
Yeah.
He's a horrible person.
Let me say this too. It's so bad.
What is? Just how bad he is?
No,
how mean he is?
This report.
Biden
Biden tells White House aides the key to his successful marriage with Jilly Bean.
No. Don't you say it.
Okay. Is it yours?
No, go ahead. I just don't want to throw up.
Is good.
No.
With Jelly Bean, with Dr. Jelly Bean.
Nobody wants to think of their great-grandparents having sex.
81 years old. He said he's alive. 81 years old. He said he's a live
threw
wire.
up on the microphone.
Oh my God, I have tears in my eyes thinking about it.
No.
So they've got
That's
that
a
going.
new interview?
This is a new report
He said that recently?
from a book by one of his aides.
I got news. They're not doing that.
That ain't happening.
That ain't happening.
But and maybe
That ain't happening.
so
She has to spoon feed him ice cream for dessert.
they're
Like
both angry.
he's not.
They're both getting
He's
their
not
freak
revving the
on.
engine. That ain't happening.
And this is what's happening this is what Joe Biden is talking about, apparently. This is what the book that is coming out about successful marriages. This is the interview that we're talking about.
Sex. Ugh.
That's what's happening in the Biden White House.
Look at TV. They're talking about Nikki Haley vowing to stay in the race. I'm telling you, they listen.
That is insane.
That is insane.
That's
Not
what's
as insane as what
happening.
you just said.
Are you happy I read the story? Are you happy I read the report?
I can't. That's a new report. That's something that they're talking about now. He can't even. He has no idea where he's at. It's bad, you guys. Like,
81-year-old commander-in-chief is fond of telling aides in the West Wing. The key fond likes to tell the aides the key to the successful marriage.
that sounds. You know what though? That does sound in character from everything that we've heard about him, because he's always talking about how great he is. He's always talking about how smart he is, how he knows everything because of his long career, and he was senator, vice president, president. So for him to be walking around pretending like he's some playboy on top of all of it, yeah, that's perfectly in line with all of the reports that we've heard about Joe Biden. He's cussing at people when they don't agree with him. Yeah.
It's just so chaotic there.
Okay.
Dave Sylvester loved that you said he ain't revving the engine. He just commented.
He
And
ain't.
I love that.
Dave, he ain't. Dave, you know that he's not.
Come on, Dave.
You know that guy's not getting
No.
getting it going in the evening.
Why was the emphasis good, too? Like,
No, no.
oh. Okay,
I don't
sorry.
know.
No more speculation from me. I promise.
Okay, I want to wrap up the Nikki Haley story because I do have some brand new numbers regarding, she's saying that the polls are the reason she's staying in the race. Well, I've got some polls regarding Super Tuesday that I want to give to you. And then I just mentioned that border story. The latest border controversy has prompted Donald Trump to make a day one promise if he is elected president. I'll give you that story next as well on Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to Colombo and Katie.
Another drink, 'cause it'll give me time to think. If I had the chance, I'd ask a woman to dance and not be dancing.
News, analysis, opinion.
It almost seems common sense, but, alas, common sense isn't so common these days.
News Talk STL.
So I got my new truck, and I freaking love it.
Whoop, whoop,
And
whoop, whoop.
can't say thank you enough to the team at Weber Chevrolet for making it happen. Weber Chevrolet is just the best. I did what everybody should do when you're looking for a new or used car. Called Weber Chevrolet, explained my situation. Here's what I have for my trade-in. Here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I need. For me, it was, I drive a truck, so I needed a full-size back seat, 4 doors, full-size back seat because of the kids. I need 4-wheel drive because we live in a city that can go from 85 degrees to 31 degrees in one day, so you never know when you're going to need your 4-wheel drive. And, I had a couple basic must-haves, and, of course, we all have a price that that is our budget, and told them what my situation was, and they were able to find a couple of options for me to choose from. And if they wouldn't have been able to, they wouldn't have been able to. But at Weber Chevrolet, they do everything they can for you to make the deal right every time. And I've seen that, time after time over the years, buying cars for my family And that is why they've been around for 120 years in the St. Louis area, because they have treated families across the community like that for generations. They've always been there for you. And not only is it a price thing, but it's a service department thing. The way they take care of you in that vehicle for the entire time that you own it, the service departments at all 3 Weber dealerships are absolutely second to none. 3 Weber dealerships, as I mentioned, Creve Coeur in St. Louis in Missouri, and then you have Granite City and Columbia in Illinois. And you can learn about what's happening at all 3 dealerships now at WeberChevrolet.com.
The wait is over. Capriati's is now open. Taste extraordinary with our one-of-a-kind sandwiches, like our award-winning Bobby with hand-pulled butterball turkey and stuffing, our roast beef with hand-sliced American Wagyu beef from Snake River Farms, or our crowd-favorite classic cheesesteaks with your choice of grilled steak or chicken. No matter which you choose, you'll always get Capriati's high-quality ingredients. Capriati's. Eat extraordinary. Order now at Capriati's.com or on the app.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
If the time has come to sell the house, you know you're empty nesters now, the kids are gone, why do we need all these bedrooms? Yeah, selling the house may be a good idea. A better idea when you want to sell your house is to go to the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway. That's our great friends Rodney and Jen Wallner, who are so good at this, they sell 15 times more homes than your average realtor. So let them help you sell your house. Just go to Rodney and Jen Wallner. Right, Mike Ferguson?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Vic. As a matter of fact, the first time I talked to Rodney and Jen about this cabin project that my wife and I have, they looked at all the factors and said, if I were you, I'd wait. When was the last time you heard somebody in real estate say, wait, don't buy something right now? Well, he knew the market conditions were going to change, and they did to our favor, but that shows how good they are at this and how honest and ethical Rodney and Jen Wallner are. That's why I won't work with anybody else. You shouldn't either. Give them a call today, 314-810-SOLD.
On the next
Larry Connors, USA.
This week, Hunter Biden appears before Congress. Will he answer questions or suffer the Biden family disease? Amnesia.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you.
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 101.994.1 News Talk STL. Well, I hope everybody was able to get to the bathroom and throw up.
Because that's what we want you to do.
Get all that, get the thoughts of Joe and Jilly Bean out of your brain.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Katie.
You're welcome.
All right, I want to wrap up this story about South Carolina and Nikki Haley losing South Carolina 60% to 40% to Donald Trump on Saturday, but making the statement afterwards exactly what she said ahead of time. She said, quote, I said earlier this week, no matter what happens in South Carolina, I would continue to run for president. I'm a woman of my word. I'm not giving up this fight when a majority of Americans disapprove of both Donald Trump and Joe Biden. So I mentioned that she's using the polls as her reason for staying in, saying that Donald Trump doesn't have a majority of Americans on his side, so that's not good enough. Republicans need a different candidate. But again, if you're using polls to make your case, the polls are not on your side either, not even close. So I was looking, and there's 15 Super Tuesday states. 4 of those states have conducted a poll in the last 10 days about the Republican primary. So those states are California, Vermont, Texas, and North Carolina. In California, the new poll says Donald Trump leads 64% to 17% for Nikki Haley.
Oh.
In Vermont, it's 61% for Trump, 31% for Nikki Haley. In North Carolina, it's 76% for Trump, 19% for Haley. And in Texas, it's 80% for Trump, 9%
That's
for
painful.
Nikki Haley. Those are the 4 Super Tuesday states that have done a poll in the last 10 days. And her best performance is in Vermont, where she's losing by 30 points. That's her best. As of Valentine's Day, Donald Trump controlled 75.8% of all the votes that will in the Super Tuesday states. So as of Valentine's Day, if you combined all the recent polls, the most recent polls from all 15 Super Tuesday states, Donald Trump wins all the states with an average of 75.8% of the votes.
What is she
It's
doing?
more than 3/4
What
of the
is she-
vote.
I know that we talked about this, and I know that money has to be. Because what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
What is your team doing? Whenever you look at things like this and you're not looking around at each other and saying to yourself, it's probably time to throw in the towel. What is the next adventure for her? What is it?
I don't know. Maybe that's why she's going all in here. Maybe this is the last
hurrah.
push. Yeah, maybe after this, it's write a book and, become a television personality. So you don't need to win any more elections. Nikki Haley's best chance, and I read this, that's exactly how it was written in this article, best chance at victory. So as I'm reading that sentence, I'm like, okay, maybe there's one state where there's actually a story. Nikki Haley's best chance on Super Tuesday is in Massachusetts, where the most recent poll shows her at 40% and Trump at 55%. So her best, quote unquote, best state, she's losing by 15 points.
I don't know how to say this in a nice way.
It's all over. I mean, and for her to use polls as her reason to stay, because Donald Trump's polling numbers, national polling numbers, don't have him over 50%. So I'm going to stay because the polls say I should.
And this,
that's not really what they're saying.
This, to me, also isn't making me like Nikki Haley more, if that makes any sense.
What does it make you? Is it desperation? Is that what is it? What does it put out more than?
To me, this doesn't seem like an intellectual move. And that's why I would think that she was smarter than to keep going like she's going. So first of all, it's not smart to me. But secondly, if this is about money, that's also a big turnoff. If this is about now,
can it be about anything else?
Now get yours. Like if you have to get money, okay. But we always harpen back to this. Where is the money coming from? Who are the people funding this initiative? If it's about money, that is also this whole situation is a big turnoff to me. I would have rather her got out like Ron DeSantis and go quietly in the night and work on whatever she needs to work on behind the scenes. But you're right in saying the desperation to keep going with numbers like 9%, it's like, girl, what are we thinking?
What else could it be besides money? What else could it be? What else could be the reason to stay in? I can't think of any other reason. It's not support. She's not turning the tide. She's not getting better in the polls. She's not gaining favor. So
there's no Hail Mary that's going to happen.
Right. What else could it be? It's got to be the money, right? I mean, it has to be.
And we say this about Trump too, but this is also very true about Nikki Haley. The people have made up their minds.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gaining anybody along with the campaign, especially after looking at numbers like that.
Yeah.
People are more probably turned off at the idea of being like, I don't really want to attach myself to someone that's losing that hard.
When we talk about South Carolina, when she loses by only 20 points, when it was only 60% to 40%, and when we say when there's a news organization that's making a story out of Massachusetts saying Nikki Haley's got a chance at winning Massachusetts because she's only down by 15 points, like that is stretching it as far as you can possibly stretch it. In any other year, in any other election, losing by 15, 20 points consistently is a landslide, and she's losing by 20 and 30 and 40 points consistently.
And now the problem with what Nikki Haley is doing is now that she's definitely going to be qualified and classified as a never Trumper. And she's going to be classified as the anti-Trump person because of her position. Okay. But before this,
They'd probably get her a job at CNN.
maybe so. But before this, people thought that they had some beef. Okay. But it wasn't to the degree of disdain that it is now. And I think that that does have a lingering effect because is Fox News going to hire her? Is it going to be CNN a Chris Christie route?
I think they would all hire her. And I think she knows that. And I think that maybe that's the next play. That's why she doesn't need to win another election. But yeah, she could definitely sit next to Jeff Flake on CNN and be their Republican voices on that network.
That might be what it is.
Yeah. And make a panel of Jeff Flake, Chris Christie, and Nikki Haley. The latest border controversy has prompted Donald Trump to make a promise. Former President Trump blasted Democrat border security and law enforcement policies for the murder of Georgia student Laken Riley. Did you see this story?
I did. It's horrible.
At the hands of an illegal immigrant, vowing that, quote, when elected, he will immediately seal the border and begin, quote, the largest deportation operation of illegal criminals in American history. See, that's the kind of stuff that people want to hear.
That's what I want to hear.
That's the kind of stuff that people want to hear. And this is what we were talking about earlier. How fed up and frustrated people are with the state of the country due to Joe Biden. They want to hear somebody say that they have a plan to address these issues on day one. Trump said in a statement earlier today, this morning, Monday morning, on Truth Social, quote, crooked Joe Biden's border invasion is destroying our country and killing our citizens. The horrible murder of 22-year-old Laken Riley at the University of Georgia should have never happened. The monster who took her life illegally entered our country in 2022 and then was released again by radical Democrats in New York after injuring a child, which is true. This guy was arrested in New York for I can't remember the exact verbiage of the charge, but it was like for endangering and injuring a minor under the age of 17. And I think it was a 7-year-old.
Kill him.
So, yeah.
That's where I'm at. Kill him.
And then was released again by radical Democrats in New York after injuring a child. When I am your president, we will immediately seal the border, stop the invasion, and on day one, we will begin the largest deportation operation of illegal criminals in American history. May God bless Laken Riley and her family. Our prayers are with you. So this 22-year-old girl was killed by a illegal immigrant who had been arrested already for hurting a child, let go, and just like we saw in New York with the illegal immigrants that assaulted the police officers, half of them right after that got on a bus and went to California. So many of these immigrants, especially the ones that are committing crimes, are traveling all over the country. They're in New York, then they're in California. This guy was in New York, and now he's down in Georgia. And they just
disperse.
They just move around, and they keep getting released, and nobody's doing anything about it. And then we have these horrible stories like this.
Going back to the Trump comment and what you said about people wanting someone to make a promise, they also don't want people to be half-ass anymore. Everybody is like, who is going to be the person that's taking care of business? Who is it going to be that's going to say, we are going to do a mass deportation. We are going to clean up the border, however long it takes. This is what we want to hear because we're sick. And when it comes to people being criminals, and that's either crossing the border illegally or hurting a child and then being released into civilization, into the public again, nobody wants anyone in leadership to be half-ass anymore. There is no lukewarm when it comes to this situation. There is truly, you are either right or you are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that proven right now with people saying sanctuary cities. That was supposed to be the lukewarm. That was supposed to be the middle ground. You can come here. We don't support illegal immigration, mass illegal immigration, but you can come here if you're here and we'll have a safe haven for you. That time has come and gone. That is a time gone by. End the sanctuary cities. End this idea that we're wearing Joe Biden for president t-shirts as we're crossing the border. I just saw an illegal immigrant from Venezuela on a live stream talking about how happy he is by living off of taxpayer money.
Yeah.
He had the gall, the gumption to go on a live stream and talk about how amazing it is to be here illegally and to live off of the taxpayer money and how great his life is now that he's in America. Nobody's catching him. Nobody can find him. That is where we are, folks. So this presidential election, I'm not someone that advocates for you being a one-issue voter, but this issue is so much larger than just the border. It is national security. It is foreign policy.
Yeah.
It is so much bigger than 5,000 people a day crossing the border.
I don't know if you remember this. There was a story that got real popular in the headlines. I want to say about 5 years ago, but I'm so bad at that. So it could have been 10 years ago. It could have been last year. But I feel like it was like 5 years ago. That a guy, like a surf beach bum in California, was living off of unemployment and government aid. And one of the big news organizations, like 60 Minutes or something like that, 60 Minutes or Nightly News or whatever it was, like followed this guy around for a day. And it was like a day in the life of this guy. And he was talking about how great his life is. And he was like, work is for suckers. He's like, I live
great.
I have a little spot on the beach, a little apartment or a little house on the beach. He was buying like seafood with his food stamps and
work is for suckers.
Yeah, he was like, I surf all day, every day. I hang out on the beach all day, every day. Like, he's like, I have a wonderful life, and it's all paid for by the taxpayers. And
God,
you're the suckers for letting me do this. If you're gonna let me do this, I'm gonna do it. He had the most slappable face, the most punchable face you've ever seen. But he was also right.
Yeah.
He was also right.
This is what it.
So
this is where we are.
Yeah, the immigrants that say that, they're not the good guys, but they're also not the only bad guys.
They're just
we're allowing that to happen.
Exactly. They're pointing out everything that's happening that's wrong in our government.
Yeah. You know who else points out some things that are wrong in our government? Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire. We're going to talk to her next. She's got a couple of stories right now, articles up at thedailywire.com that I want to talk to her about. First, Biden mocked for claiming 9 world leaders have said he's got to win in 2024. For the sake of the planet, 9 world leaders have called Joe and said, Joe, you got to win. Something tells me
that's wrong.
Something tells me this story is not entirely accurate. We'll talk to Virginia about that and more next on Colombo and Katie.
You're listening to Colombo and Katie.
I'm sure you've heard it all before, but you never really
like us on Facebook at News Talk STL.
That anybody feels the way I do about you now.
News analysis and opinion.
Let the American people see what's going on here.
News Talk STL.
Pay close attention.
St. Louis is number 1.
Bottom line is this. St. Louis is number 1.
For conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Hi, this is Scott Trout of Cordell & Cordell. There are a lot of great dads out there. Sometimes those dads get divorced. For more than 30 years, we've represented men in divorce, confronting the pitfalls that could devastate your finances or harm your family relationships. While every situation is different, our goal is to get the best outcome for you and your kids. Visit CordellCordell.com to take the first step.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. 600 Kelwood Parkway, Suite 310, Town and Country, Missouri, 63017. CordellCordell.com.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Are you a natural leader driven by the desire to make a lasting impact? Is your deepest calling to be an elected official making a real difference? Now, picture yourself with the power to shape the future in St. Louis City. St. Louis needs your leadership now more than ever. The urgency is real. The Republican Party, City of St. Louis can help you file, be your guiding force, and support you during the campaign. Contact stlouisrepublicans.com and step into your destiny.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
This hour of Colombo and Katie brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 101.994.1 News Talk STL. Joining us on the line now, as she does every Monday afternoon at this time, is our friend Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire. Virginia, thank you for being here. How are you, my friend?
I am good. I still sound a little weird, man. This is crazy.
Yeah. Virginia had a real go with COVID over the last few weeks. I'm glad that you are feeling much better. And
yes, for sure. I feel fine. I just sound weird.
Yeah, it's hanging on. When you had it, Katie, you had the no taste, no smell thing, right?
I had
and it lasted a long time, didn't it?
Yeah, I had the original COVID. And yeah, Virginia, if you remember that too, I didn't have taste or smell for months.
That's
for
crazy.
months.
Yeah.
It's
So
wild.
they can definitely hang on for a little while.
Oh, yeah. See, the only thing that ever happened to me with that, in that regard, was I coffee tasted weird for like 3 months the second time I had it. So, which was a bummer because I like coffee. So,
yeah, that sucked.
It was just like, this does not taste right.
So, Virginia, I wanted to ask you about a couple of your recent articles at thedailywire.com.
Sure.
Specifically, the one about Joe Biden being mocked for claiming that 9 world leaders have called him to say, quote, he's got to win in 2024, I guess for the sake of the planet. Can you explain these conversations that the president's been having with world leaders?
Okay, so the way he said it was like, you know, I go around the world and I go to these summits and nine different world leaders have like pulled me aside and said, you've just got to win. And because, you know, not because of anything that'll happen in the United States, but apparently their democracy, wherever they are from, he didn't really specify, depends on Joe Biden winning in
you know what?
2024.
If it was, you know what? Actually, I was making fun of him, but I'm thinking about it. I could probably come up with 9, like Kim Jong Un. Yeah. He probably would much. He would probably much rather.
Very happy about
it. See, you're going the same direction that the people mocking him did, because that's kind of what they were getting at too. This idea that, like, but here's the thing, and lest we all forget, none of those 9 world leaders actually get to vote.
Right.
So what they want from us, and the other thing is, what value? I mean, what do you have to think about who these 9 world leaders could be, and then how do they benefit by Joe Biden being president, and why are we worried about any foreign country benefiting because of our president?
Right. Yeah. Why would that? You're so right. Like I didn't even think about that part. Like why should that even matter to any United States voter? Even if it was like, like Angela Merkel. Like she doesn't want she doesn't she wants us to vote for Joe, so we'll vote for Joe. Like who cares?
Well, now here's the thing: if it were something, and if this were to happen with Donald Trump, I think that he would be more specific, probably, and not just say, "Oh, the world leaders came up to me and this, that, and the other." But suppose somebody like Merkel, or she's not in power anymore.
Right,
I don't think.
No, you're right.
But whoever is in power in Germany or in Poland, for example, if they were to say, "Hey, look, with Joe Biden as president, we are at greater risk of a threat from Russia because of XYZ." Or if Joe Biden as president, we're at greater risk because of this national security concern. Because when Joe Biden says he's going to back us up, we don't believe him. But when Donald Trump says he's going to back us up, he's got, only president in my lifetime to not start new wars. He actually has a reputation for sticking it to foreign powers that he thinks are getting a little too, yeah. So you get the idea.
Did he even mention any names in this?
Yeah.
Did he did he give any clue about who he's talking about, or is he just pulling it out of his butt?
Well, he didn't give any, and of course, the response was, well, who's benefiting from Joe Biden being president? You've got Zelensky in Ukraine, right? Yeah. You've got Putin in Russia because nobody's stopping him. That's or nobody true. Was. And he straight up admitted, 1, he preferred Hillary over Trump. 2, he waited until Trump was out of office to invade Ukraine again. And 3, he'd prefer Biden over Trump. I mean, how many times does this stuff have to come out before people are like, oh?
I'm sure Xi Jinping would rather Joe Biden remain in office than Donald Trump. As I said, I'm sure that Kim Jong-un. I think we can definitely pick out some people that would definitely prefer Joe Biden to remain in office. I wanted to ask you.
The Mexican president.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, probably Trudeau. Trudeau also. There's another one for you. You can add him to the list. So maybe he wasn't lying. Maybe he just. Maybe we just weren't thinking of the right world leaders. I wanted to ask you about another article. First of all, I got to say this too. I love reading your articles at the Daily Wire. We publish, we link a bunch of these articles too on our website, newstalkstl.com, so you can go to our website and check out a lot of Virginia's work as well. I don't know if you're the one who picks out the pictures for your articles.
Yes.
Whoever
yes, I do.
is doing a great job of the thumbnail pic and then the pictures inside the article. So there's another one that I wanted to ask you about. Joe Biden admits that he has worked alongside real racists.
Yeah.
But today's GOP is even worse. Hold on, Joe, what? I know what it's like. I know what it's like to hang out with racists. Let me tell you about that. Could you tell us about that story a little bit, please?
Okay, so he mentioned Strom Thurmond by name. Now, if you know about anything about Strom Thurmond, he was a Democrat, and then he was a Dixiecrat, and then he was a Democrat again, and then he was a Republican. And so he kind of shuffled around to whoever would have him. But his general principle was, I like segregation, and whoever else likes segregation, that's who I'm going to caucus with.
Mm-hmm.
And he was not. Now, he's also the guy that Joe Biden said, well, I convinced him to come around on the Civil Rights Act. Well, he didn't. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, anyway. Strom Thurmond filibustered it, the longest filibuster in Senate history. And he also did not want it to pass. He didn't vote for it. Now, in the 90s, Joe Biden did convince him to vote in favor of an update to the Civil Rights Act, which had to do with applying the principles outlined in the original Civil Rights Act to certain business transactions. And so Joe Biden got him to vote for that one.
Mm-hmm.
But the way Joe Biden puts it is, I got him to come around on civil rights.
Yeah.
Well, he never actually
In
voted
the 60s.
for the Civil Rights Act.
Right.
And So that's what. So he mentioned Strom Thurmond by name. He leaves out the part that he eulogized Robert Byrd, the Grand Cyclops of the KKK.
KKK, yep.
Yep. And that was while he was a sitting vice president. He did that.
Yeah,
I think it was 2010. But so he doesn't mention, and he says, well, blah blah blah. I served with real racists like these guys, and today's Republicans are worse because they don't believe in the democratic process.
Right.
But it doesn't explain how the Republicans are not believing in the democratic process.
Yeah.
And he also doesn't explain why him ignoring the Supreme Court and forgiving millions and millions of dollars in student loans against the orders of the Supreme Court.
Right.
Is adhering to the democratic process.
The quote, and you have this in your article. The quote is, "I've served with real racists. I've served with Strom Thurmond. I've served with all these guys that have terrible records on race. But guess what? Republicans are worse. They don't believe in basic democratic principles." Well, hold on. First of all, none of those basic democratic principles that you're having an argument with have anything to do with race. And what a strange flex to say,
Totally.
like, hey, you want to talk about racists? I've been friends. I've worked with racists for years.
My colleagues.
Yeah, great stuff, Virginia. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but I highly recommend people check out all of Virginia's stuff at thedailywire.com. And, of course, every Monday afternoon with us here on Colombo and Katie. Have a great rest of your day, Virginia. Thanks for your time.
You too.
That is Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire, and we are going to have another guest join us. Speaking of Monday afternoons, every Monday at 3, we talk to Rob Carter, and he joins us next on Colombo and Katie.
Report cards are a good way to show how well your kids are doing in class and where they might need improvement. We at the Show Me Institute believe schools should get grades too, so parents can see how their child's school compares to others. That's why we came up with the Missouri School Rankings Project. Click on the website moschoolrankings.org and it's all there. Rankings and letter grades for all the schools in Missouri. The rankings are based on categories such as student performance in English language arts and math, ACT scores, and graduation rates. Then we take the rankings and come up with a grade point average, just like your child has. Each school and district has a grade, and the website is easy to use. And now we've added spending data for every district, so parents, taxpayers, and policymakers can see where the money is going. Don't you want to know how your child's school stacks up? Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
My friend, death is certain. Are you prepared? Larry Connors here. I don't want to scare you, but your funeral plans are an important conversation you need to have with your spouse, family, other loved ones. My friend Benjamin Schaefer at Senior Memorial can help find you an affordable, final expense life insurance policy, regardless of your health condition. You could qualify up to $30,000 of lifetime coverage. Life insurance plans with Senior Memorial also offer living benefits towards hearing and diabetic supplies, access to a 24-hour teledoc service, discounts on urns, caskets, tombstones. Call my friend Benjamin at Senior Memorial and discover your legacy at 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. A coroner has determined the cause of death for a Georgia woman who was found dead on the University of Georgia campus last week. 22-year-old Laken Hope Riley died from blunt force trauma to the head. That's according to the Athens-Clarke County coroner, Sonny Wilson. Authorities believe Riley was murdered by 22-year-old Jose Antonio Ibarra while she went out for a jog on Thursday. Ibarra of Venezuela is in the country illegally. Governor Brian Kemp says Laken Riley could be alive if the border policy was changed.
Laken's death is a direct result of failed policies on the federal level and an unwillingness by this White House to secure the southern border.
Governor Kemp speaking to WSB TV. Also at townhall.com, in consumer news, the Federal Trade Commission suing to block a proposed merger between grocery giants Kroger and Albertsons, saying the billion-dollar deal would eliminate competition. A new poll shows President Biden's approval ratings are hovering just above his all-time low.
According to a new Gallup poll, Americans' approval of President Biden's job performance has edged down 3 percentage points to 38%, just 1 point shy of his all-time low. President Biden also registered shoddy approval ratings for his handling of 5 key issues facing the United States, including a new low of 28% on immigration, as well as scores ranging from 30% to 40% for the economy, the situation in Ukraine, the war between Israel and the Iran-backed Palestinian terrorist group Hamas, and other foreign affairs. Edwin Mora, Washington.
And on Wall Street, stocks have been up and down, but did finish lower. The Dow was down 67 points, the NASDAQ 20 points in the red. More at townhall.com.
To my newborn baby boy, the day you arrived was one of the happiest days of my life. Right up there with the day I bought my RV from that guy on the internet and insured it with Progressive. What a deal. Just know, son, I'll always be here for you. And by here, I mean in the middle of absolutely nowhere. In my RV.
Protect your baby with an RV policy from Progressive. Take as little as 4 minutes to see what you could save at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at ReliefFactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com. Be the next.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Lots of crazy weather coming up. Nice and warm today. In fact, 2 days of record heat. Today and tomorrow will be close to or above 80 degrees. Unfortunately, there's a critical fire danger today for St. Louis and St. Charles counties. Along with the record heat tomorrow, unfortunately, a chance for some severe thunderstorms, particularly late afternoon into the evening from the metro area southward. We're going to have to see where these develop and where they move. But again, that's tomorrow. And then a huge temperature crash. Temperatures in the 30s on Wednesday. Could even see a little snow in spots. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Fox News commentary.
Donald Trump sails to victory in South Carolina while Nikki Haley and her uniparty special interest war-loving donors vow to white-knuckle her candidacy until the end. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
The Fed's new FedNow system is all about surveillance and control. Secure your assets today with something Washington cannot manipulate. Hi, Stephen K. Bannon, and I recommend diversifying your retirement into a physical gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. To learn more, get a free info kit by texting the word SHELTER to 989898. Do this right now. Text SHELTER to the number 989898 and get a free info kit from Birch Gold. There's no obligation or purchase required.
Message and data rates may apply.
Donald Trump won big in South Carolina, and that's not shocking. What is shocking is why Nikki Haley is still in the race, or I guess more accurately, why her donors are willing to waste tens of millions on her. The woman loses by double digits, and she keeps going, but that's not resiliency, that's a well-funded ego. What concerns me is, who is funding her? She keeps losing badly, and yet she's outraising Trump. She spent almost $11.5 million on ads in South Carolina in February, and that's over $10 million more than Trump. Last month, she raised almost $3 million more than Trump. She raises it, she spends it, she loses, but she stays in the race. In South Carolina, despite losing to Trump, she still got about 300,000 votes. In November, will these people vote for Trump, or will they vote for Joe Biden or Gavin Newsom? That's my question. I'm Tommy Lahren.
Listen anytime. It happens
Anywhere.
Anywhere.
Everywhere.
Every day continues to bring more news
with the News Talk STL app.
Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go.
Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store
or at newstalkstl.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 News Talk STL. It's a few minutes after 3 o'clock on a Monday afternoon, which means we have Rob Carter with us, and he's in studio once again this week.
What's going on?
Great to see you, buddy. How are you?
It's Monday.
Yeah.
Rainy days and Mondays.
Rob Carter Show, of course, every night, 8 to 10 p.m. here on News Talk STL. We're a month in now, right?
About a month.
Yeah. How's it going?
It's interesting, just doing live radio. I had not done live radio prior to that, and I'd done, for lack of a better word, taped radio.
Yeah.
So doing it live is
Pre-recorded.
it's actually been easier because you don't overthink it.
Exactly.
You just get up and go, and it is what it is, kind of thing.
I totally agree with that. When you pre-record an interview or you pre-record a show for some reason, you have time to second guess yourself and go back and think, what should we have done? And it's always good to just go with your first instinct.
Tony, when I would do it at the beginning, when I first started, I hadn't been in radio since I was a kid. I grew up wanting to be a broadcaster, and then. I think I've told the story before. It just wasn't enough money in it for me when I was a young person. Like I was not raised with money. I had an opportunity to make more money in the shoe business, and I took off in that direction. But when I started coming back into it, I would pre-record, and one stumble. If I do 14 minutes straight, one stumble, start over.
Yeah.
And then
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my wife would go, "What are you doing in there?"
Yeah.
And she goes, "You've been in there for hours." I said, "I'm trying to get this right." She goes, "I've been listening to you. You're fine. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And it was that
Yeah.
overthinking every little stumble and starting
Right.
over again.
And if you, in those 14 minutes, if you could have done a much better job at putting forward your opinion or, talking about whatever issue. So
I think it
it's
sounds
not even
better when it's
to-
more organic anyway. It really
Exactly.
does.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Exactly. I think it's just more authentic. Yeah.
Correct.
I totally agree. So that's a lot of fun. And it's, we talk about it all the time, live and local. You're not going to get any more of that anywhere else besides here on News Talk
This
STL.
is the place to be. I don't know how
This
many people
is
recognize
the place to
that
be.
in the broadcasting world, but if you're in conservative talk right now, because I when I came to town, I'm like, okay, where do I want to be? I started thinking about it, and this became an obvious choice for me because nobody's telling me what to say, nobody's bothering me. I have some theories out there that are a little, when you hear them the first time, you're like, what is this guy talking about? Is he insane? And but everybody allows me to say what I want. They don't hold a grudge if they disagree with me, and we just roll on about our day. I like that.
Yeah. All the money is going to a local small business right here in St. Louis and not some
That's right.
huge liberal fundraiser. Something Katie and I talk a whole lot about on this show, Rob. I don't think you and I have had a chance to, or you've had a chance to discuss this with us, is the transgender sports. I know sports is something you're into, and I am the father of a gymnast, of a female athlete who is on a level and on a path to possibly do big things for herself. Maybe get some money for college.
Nice.
And, go on, to another level with her athletics. So obviously this is very important to me. Katie is a woman, so women's rights are something.
I identify as a woman, just to make things clear for this room. I do.
Yeah. So,
Was that ever in debate?
No, I don't think so. It
she
should
has,
be.
she has almost as much on the line as I do when it comes to women's rights, believe it or not. But the latest story out of this, the latest controversy out of this is out of Vermont. The coach of a Vermont basketball team that forfeited a game against a transgender player broke his silence after the state banned his team from competing in future tournaments. Chris Goodwin is the coach of the Mid-Vermont Christian School, said that the team was notified of the transgender player on the other team, but it wasn't until the playoffs last year that they ended up facing them on the court. Quote, "I've got 4 daughters. I've coached all of them at one point in their careers playing high school basketball. I've also filled in for the boys coach when he can't make a practice, and I run those practices. And boys just play at a different speed, at a different force than girls play. It's a different game," he continued, adding that it would be irresponsible and asking for injury if a smaller female player were to play against the boys. The girls' basketball team forfeited the game against the team with the transgender player back in February of last year, which prompted the Vermont Principals Association, the VPA, to ban the team from future tournaments. Officials worried at the same time about the safety repercussions stemming from a biological male competing against the female players. And then they released this statement. which I had to reread like 3 times because I couldn't believe that they actually said it this way. This is from the VPA, the Vermont Principals Association, in making its case for banning this team that refused to play against a transgender player, for banning them from future tournaments, and for defending the transgender player being on the girls' team. They said, quote, Mid-Vermont Christian School has every right to teach its beliefs to its own students. It cannot, however, impose those beliefs on students from other public and private schools, deny students from other schools the opportunity to play or hurt students from other schools because of who those students are.
It's insane.
They put the word hurt in there. Like, listen, it's a transgender kid's right to hurt the girls if they're playing in a physical sport ahead of them. I read that like 3 different times. I was like, wait a minute, is this coming from the school that got banned? Like, why are you saying hurt? But it's not. They're literally saying out loud and making the case like, yeah, maybe it's not fair, but they identify as a girl, so it's their right to play and even hurt the kids that they play against.
It's
That
crazy.
is crazy.
It's
Rob.
so crazy.
What are your thoughts on this? This issue in general that's become such a huge
I
thing.
think it is an erosion of society. I think it is planned and orchestrated, and I think that anybody that buys into it needs to see a psychiatrist immediately. I always make the commentary, what if Shaq felt like a woman? What would that look like with a 7'2", 325-pound man in the prime of his physical being playing girls basketball? It makes no sense whatsoever. And I get into these arguments with people who are on that side because I have some progressives in my family. And they'll make the argument that everything's the same. You just don't know that women can do this. I said, oh, yeah, I can do. I played sports my entire life. And I remember I had a girl that played softball at our high school. And she was great. She was the best player in our school and very good friend of mine. And we got into a class one time and we were having some fun with each other. And she said, there is no way you could hit me playing softball. And I said, yes, I can. I'm telling you, I can. And so we made this kind of joking. We were all friends, so it wasn't like it was this really highly competitive thing. And we went up to where we practiced baseball on my baseball team. And she got out, she started warming up with it. And I said, all right, let's do it. And she threw the first one, and I absolutely laced it, first one. And she goes, oh, give me another one. And she threw me another one, threw me a couple balls, and she threw one again. And I laced it again. And she goes, I think it just dawned on her at that point that somebody that's 100 pounds heavier than her that plays baseball, softball, the really good ones, I've seen it where women can throw a softball and men can't hit it. I'm not saying that's not possible. There's some amazing. She wasn't at that superstar level to where the ball's dipping and moving all over the place. She just threw a fastball right down the middle and it was cooking. But it's a ball that's a little bit bigger. So when you're playing baseball and you're trained to play baseball at that time, you could see it. And it's just, I think when you try to mix women and men playing in sports, I think it's so unfair to women. That's why I don't know why women put up with it. It doesn't make any sense.
No, a lot of them don't.
This is what's crazy, Rob. And I think it definitely has started with my generation, the millennials. But when was it the point in society where all of a sudden women felt like women and men had to be equal? Now, granted, in the working environment, I completely understand. Me too, I understand. All of that. I mean, I'm glad to be in this room with you two gentlemen. I think it's incredible.
Don't lie.
I hate it here. Anyways, get me out. But I guess my question to you is, Rob, when in society was it such a movement, and it had to be, that women and men were completely equal? Because there are significant differences in men and women that make us wonderful in different ways, that make us stronger in different ways. And those differences are very beautiful, and they make us coexist together very well.
Right.
When did society become this mess of being like everything has to be the same and everyone has to be the same, and that's perfection?
It appears to me, at least, because I look at this myself, Gloria Steinem, with the women's movement and all this that went back, I guess it was in the 60s and 70s, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was really a movement to get women back into the workforce. I mean, if you're looking at it if you look at the world as needing workers, if the corporations need workers, if people need workers, then we can double the workforce by just driving women into it and tell them, you know what, you want to work. You want to work 10-hour days. You want to work 7 days a week. You're not as good as a man if you're not on that playing field. My first wife didn't work at all. She raised the kids, and I thought that was the way to go. I think, I look back on it, that was the greatest thing that it could have been, because she was able to be home with the kids, keep track of them, make sure what was going on. And then when, if she wants to work when we raise the kids, then she works if she wants to, doesn't have to. And I just think that's a better way to go about society. I mean, when my grandparents were alive, they could have one worker who could make a medium income and put their kids off to college and take 2 weeks vacation. And now you have a man and a woman married, working full time to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And it just
survives.
feels, just to survive. And usually
it's not even an option. It's not even.
And usually they're in debt.
Yeah, it's barely even an option to have a parent to stay at home and be the homemaker and take. It's not even because you can't even live today because of the way that the economy and society has gone. So it's barely even an option. And even if it is an option, it's frowned upon as some kind of horrible. My wife is the president of our family company that my father started. And he passed away about 5 years ago from cancer. And he has 2 sons, myself and my brother. But it's my wife who married into the company that took over our company and has ran it since my dad
That's
passed
pretty cool.
away. It's very cool. My wife would tell you that if we were in a position that she could be the one, this is her words, her dream job is to stay home, raise the kids, take care of the house, take care of the family, she handles the bills. She does. My wife, like I'm sure your wife, does so much.
Does everything
more for the family than I do, and she would love to focus on that. She has the capability, the smarts to run a company.
Oh yeah.
But if I were to say, I'd love it if my wife could stay home, as well as people, listening now that would hear you say something like that, there's a percentage of people out there that would say, wow, that is just the most. That is just the most disrespectful thing to say, old-fashioned thing to say in the world, and it's just not. It's a choice.
Right.
I think
it's not right for everybody.
Right.
But the people that it is right for doesn't mean that those people are evil or wrong.
But now we're back into this weird era of life where it seems like gender isn't supposed to matter. It's we're talking about transgenderism in sports. 5 years ago, I don't think we could imagine having this kind of conversation. 6 years ago, I don't think we could ever fathom having this kind of conversation. But here we are where we're having a younger generation being told at school, you don't have to go home and tell your parents what your pronouns are. You can be whatever you want to be. You can be a boy with boy parts but identify as a girl, and we can keep it right here in the classroom. We're raising kids to not know what gender they are anymore. And it just baffles me that once upon a time, there was this fight to identify these genders. And now it's like all of that is gone. It's all erased.
I think it's so sad. I talk about this all the time on my show. I think what we're doing to our kids, because most people don't have a choice. They have to work, right? Most people in this country have a mom and dad working. So you have to send your kids off to school. Most people can't afford private schools, so they end up in public schools. And then you have this indoctrination of their minds when they're not fully understanding of what's happening. And you can talk to your kids all you want, but when you're 8, 9, 10 years old, you gravitate towards authority and your friends, right? Your friends have such meaning for you because you're trying to fit in, you're trying to find your way in the world. So it's a terrible time to indoctrinate kids into philosophies that they don't understand. And I just think it's a terrible, to me, in Missouri, I talk about with the politicians. I say, how do you not put that to bed? How do you just say that is not going to happen? This is what we're going to talk about in school. We're going to talk about reading, writing, and arithmetic, but we're not going to talk about your sexuality and your skin color, and that's not going to matter to us because that's not the way the country is devised. We recognize it. It's not like you can't see what's going on, but we don't teach it that this is something that's important in an educational system. That is for the family. That's for your family to decide how you want to go about that, and that's a personal thing, not a public thing.
And the way that they latch onto it, the way that a girl that wants to play sports with the boys when they're 7, 8 years old, or a little boy that wants to play house with some dolls with a girl, like that it just used to be, and it should always still be like,
it's curiosity.
Okay, you'd go do whatever you want to do because you can have different interests in whatever. Now it's like it's those authority figures that you're talking about that are like, oh, you want to play sports as a little girl? Oh, you want to play with the boys? So you want to be one of the boys, right? Okay, well now so we'll just call you a boy, and that's okay. Like and like plant these ideas
that confuse
and put
them.
These kids on a path to confuse. Just let the girl play sports with the boys and let the boy play house with the girls if they want to.
Right.
And stop forcing them to make a decision about their pronouns
But Tony,
when they're 8 years old. It's insanity.
Then they make it cool, though. So then the culture becomes, okay,
it's
if
true.
you're a boy and you feel like a girl and then you're one of these kids that just doesn't fit in, you're a little bit awkward because you're learning how to be social. And then all of a sudden you're the cool kid in the class because you're a boy that says to the class, I feel like a girl. And everybody goes, they fawn over you now because it's the cool thing to do. It's just backwards.
Man, you're so right. We're almost out of time here, Rob. Only got about a minute left. I wanted to just ask you the same question Katie and I were asking earlier. Nikki Haley loses the South Carolina primary over the weekend.
Shocker.
Says that she's right. Says that she's staying in the race just like she said she was going to. Katie and I were saying, what could possibly be the reason why, besides money? Is there any other reason for Nikki Haley to be staying in this race besides, I guess, the fact that she's still making money?
I think it's money and connections because obviously somebody that is backing her wants her to stay in the race, and that creates opportunity for her after the race. So there's somebody pulling her strings that's saying, hey, stay in the race and we'll get you a job doing this, or we'll put you head of a corporation, or there's some benefit to her to stay in this race because clearly she knows she's not going to win it.
That is Rob Carter. You can hear him every single weeknight, 8 to 10 p.m. live here on News Talk STL. And, of course, every Monday afternoon right here with us. Rob.
That's right. Thanks,
Great
guys.
To see you. Thank
Great
you
to see
so
you.
much.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks,
Speaking
Katie.
of schools and local schools, the Missouri Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, has sent 3 cease and desist letters to 3 different St. Louis County school districts for 3 very different reasons. Very interesting stuff. I'll tell you about those letters. I'll tell you what the Attorney General is up to next on Colombo and Katie.
News, analysis,
I'm glad you're talking about this.
opinion.
I'm glad you're fired up about it, too, because I know I am.
News Talk STL.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
What is wrong with this picture? New York City Mayor Eric Adams giving $53 million taxpayer dollars to illegals. They can spend the money, and when it's all gone, they can recharge the cards, get another $1,000. He says this is actually going to save money for New Yorkers. No, sir. More likely, you're going to be encouraging more illegals to come to New York City. Get your $1,000 debit card. Illegals only. While a Columbia University study shows 56% of New Yorkers live near the poverty line. Okay, what's wrong with this picture? The New York governor says we need to have a break from all the illegals coming here. But at the same time, she's using taxpayer dollars to give cash payments to thousands of illegals who don't qualify for typical welfare. No one's asking if they're legal or illegal. All right, what's wrong with this picture? The D.C. mayor handing out $10,000 blank checks to anyone she considers poor. What could be wrong with these pictures? People getting free money. But it's not free. It's costing American taxpayers, citizens. Only illegals get the free money. What's wrong with this picture? Everything.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Congratulations to everyone at Connor Roofing. We chose the Connor Roofing team for our National Best of the Best award for customer satisfaction without telling anyone at Connor Roofing, based on over 30 years of fantastic customer reviews. Rob and Kathy Connor and their team deliver very high quality roofing, siding, gutters, storm damage restoration at a fair price with integrity. Connor Roofing has had an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau for years. Count on Connor. For an estimate, please visit connorroofing.com. That's CONNER roofing.com.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-432-8150. 800-432-8150. 800-432-8150. That's 800-432-8150.
So you guys have heard me talk about A+ Plumbing and Drain. Jeremiah Burpo, the president and owner of A+ Plumbing and Drain, has been the Colombo family plumber since before there even was an A+. And he is coming out to our house. I've told you about ever since we bought our new house, we've been unhappy with the toilets in the upstairs bathrooms, and we're finally doing something about it. Jeremiah and his team are coming out in a week or so to replace the toilets in our house, and they were just at my mom's house over the weekend because she had a leaky toilet that she had been dealing with for a little while, and thank goodness for the team at A+ Plumbing and Drain. They were able to come in, identify the problem, and get it fixed up for her. A+ Plumbing and Drain is a local family-owned business that has grown it exclusively on word of mouth and recommendation. Me talking about them on the radio is the first time that they've ever done any type of major advertising, and yet Jeremiah has been able to grow this company over the last several years just from doing an outstanding job from his customers. You want to talk about the kind of company that you can trust and support. A+ Plumbing and Drain is exactly that. They can take care of all your plumbing needs, and they specialize in new construction and home renovation. So if you have a big project, A+ Plumbing and Drain is definitely the team to call. But anything from that major commercial project all the way down to just replacing a faucet, A+ Plumbing and Drain is the team to call. Call A+ for your next plumbing project at 636-288-7126, or just contact them through Facebook. A+ Plumbing and Drain on Facebook.
Hey, St. Louis, my name is Rob Carter. If you are sick and tired of the corporate news bubble, if you like unedited information free from corporate money, if you want straight talk with no script, join me weeknights from 8 to 10 p.m. on The Rob Carter Show.
Live and local, weeknights at 8 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Katie on 101.9 News Talk STL. Great conversation with Rob Carter in that last segment. Before that, we were talking to Virginia Cruda from the Daily Wire. If you missed either one of those conversations, make sure you're subscribed to the Colombo and Katie podcast so you don't miss anything that happens here on the show, because we put the show out as a podcast right after we get off the air every single day. We put it on basically every podcast platform, so whatever you prefer, wherever you get your podcast, just make sure you are subscribed to Colombo and Katie. And, you know, thinking back to that conversation with Virginia, it really, if you haven't read these articles yet, they are amazing. Just these headlines. Joe Biden admits that he's worked along real racists and claims that the Republican Party is worse. That is the most backwards flex I've ever heard in my life. Like, oh, you want to talk about racists? I've been friends with racists and worked with racists for decades. I'll tell you about racists.
But,
like, Joe, not a good thing, bud.
No. Something that really is hard to listen to whenever you whenever you read an article like that, you talk about an article like that, is the fact that people are so casual about calling other people racists when nothing racial happened. Like whenever Joe Biden was calling Republicans, the people in Congress right now, racists, it's crazy to me that we just throw around that term without making any kind of connection to why he thinks Republicans are racist. It just, what?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's.
Why are we so okay with using that term willy-nilly now? That's a really offensive thing to call someone.
Yes. There's also the article about him claiming that 9 world leaders have called him and separately and said he's got to win the 2024 presidential election. And then another article that we didn't even mention about The View. So the dog Commander, the White House dog, bit another person.
Surprise.
It's up to 24 people now. And Whoopi Goldberg on The View said that maybe the dog is seeing something that other people aren't aware of.
Or
like
maybe,
maybe the dog knows something that we don't know, and he knows that these
24 different people. 24. You know what? Then Biden did the wrong thing by picking those people to begin with. And this is all Biden's fault anyway. He's a bad owner. He's a bad trainer. And I guess he just picked the wrong people to surround himself with.
Maybe the dog knows something we don't know.
What? This is horrible to say.
Okay.
And then we can get off the subject.
No, do it.
If that dog was living in a neighborhood and bit 24 people, the dog would have been put down after the second person.
Right. It would have been, after the second person. You're right.
It would have been put down.
Or if the owner was a responsible owner that didn't want that to happen to their dog, they would have removed that dog from the situation.
Yep.
They wouldn't have allowed the dog to be in a position to bite 24 different people.
Mm-mm.
So, yeah. Maybe the dog saw something we didn't see.
Right.
Now we're really trying. All right. The Missouri Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, has issued cease and desist letters to 3 different St. Louis County school districts. I'm going to give you the details and get your reaction to this. Bailey said that he has received reports that the Lindbergh, Parkway, and Webster Groves school districts have been discriminating against students and staff based on their religion and or race. The warnings to the districts came in 3 separate letters. Bailey accused the Webster Groves School District of having race-based criteria for employees and applicants, saying, quote, if these reports are true, Webster Groves is discriminating on the basis of race in direct violation of both state and federal law. Racial discrimination is illegal in the United States, Bailey said, and the district's stated goal is to attract and remain staff that, at minimum, reflect the diversity of their students. In response to the letter, a spokesperson for Webster Groves said, quote, the letter is ridiculous. The cease and desist letter from Andrew Bailey is what they're talking about. The cease and desist letter is ridiculous. There is nothing wrong with the stated goal, and it is certainly not unlawful race-based hiring. The Webster Groves School District has not and will not discriminate against anyone in hiring based on the person's race. However, the district is interested in having a diverse faculty to serve as educators to our diverse student population and is willing to take the effort to attract, support, and retain that staff. So that's one of the 3, and they're all different. So I don't want to get too hung up on. We can dig into each one as much as we want, and we can even talk about this throughout the week because I think it's super interesting. But this is a really interesting one because the Webster Groves, they do state on their website in their policy that it is their stated goal to have a staff that reflects the diversity of their student group. So that means, at the end of the day, if there's too many white teachers, they're going to stop hiring white teachers. Just like if there's too many black teachers, they're going to stop hiring black teachers in order to keep the diversity. Now, diversity, and I don't think Andrew Bailey is at all saying there's anything wrong with diversity, but when you start putting quotas on, you can have this many white people, this many black people, this many Hispanic people, that's racism, and that's against the law. You can't have quotas on how many of each group you can have. You should be hiring the best teachers regardless of race. You should be hiring the best staff regardless of skin color.
It's qualifications, especially
Right?
with the younger minds.
So I can see the frustration that Webster Groves is coming, that this Webster Groves spokesperson has here, but it's it's their stated policy that could potentially be a problem.
I'm sorry, did you say that these all cease and desist letters that have been sent out are because of race or discrimination?
So they're all very different.
Okay,
so
okay.
They all are in the discrimination about either race or religion category. But so the Webster Groves one I just explained is because of their hiring policy of diversity, basically setting quotas for the percentage of staff that they have, and how that could definitely be a problem. Bailey said that the Lindbergh School District, this is number 2 letter, is implementing race-based criteria for students applying for the district's gifted program. Bailey said that the district's policy states that its goal is to reach 20% equity index for underrepresented school populations, which means when I was a kid, it was galactic. I don't know what it's called when, these days, have you even had one? But if you were a galactic kid, one day of the month or one day of the week, you got to go to take special classes because you were super
Ours was
smart.
Spectra, and I wanted it to be so badly.
Yeah, I was never in galactic. I know that's going to be shocking to people. So according to this, and the letter that Andrew Bailey sent, the Lindbergh School District basically says that there has to be a certain number of each race, certain percentage of the kids in the program have to, be from different races. And it's out last week with the Asian students that were suing Harvard, I think, one of the Ivy League schools.
Yeah, I think it was Harvard.
Because they were making it harder for Asian students to get accepted, because even though Asian students were the most qualified, they were saying, oh, there's too many Asian students here. So we have to, even though this Asian student is more qualified, we have to take the Hispanic student or the black student or maybe even the white student because we have too many Asian kids. It's kind of the high school version of that. Like, yeah, we want to put all these, you have to achieve this certain level to be in this gifted program, which is going to be beneficial to you.
Absolutely.
As far as education and advancement into college and all of that. So it's a very beneficial program to get in, but the rules that line changes depending on what race they need.
See, this is
is underrepresented in that group, rather than just saying race has nothing to do with this. And that's the whole thing. Every time you start to try to address racism by putting in
rules,
racial quotas, that is racism.
I have more of an issue with this story than I do the first story.
Okay.
Because this one, I do understand what Andrew Bailey is saying about the teachers, but I also, like you said, I understand having them be a mirror or reflect the student body. Though
just don't put quotas on it.
That I can see being manipulated and maybe a stronger argument.
Yeah.
This is actually taking away things from students that have a great potential. This is taking away opportunities from kids. This is a big, big issue.
The third letter was written to the Parkway School District, which has prevented students from forming religious-based clubs. A specific example is the Parkway School District, some high school kids formed the Fellowship of Christian Athletes Club. and they were prevented by the district from doing so.
Hmm.
And Andrew Bailey says that is against state and federal law of discrimination against the freedom of religion to say that these kids can't have a Fellowship of Christian Athletes club in their high school.
Oh, I do want to talk about this.
So-
That I do. This is
I think
all. These are
this
interesting.
story has got some legs.
I do
think there's
too.
going to be more to talk about. So we will do that as the week goes on. That's going to do it for us this afternoon. Colombo and Katie back tomorrow at 2. The O'Reilly Report is next, followed by the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show, then Larry Connors USA, then Rob Carter. Thank you so much for listening to us and supporting us here at 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Pigeons, they are everywhere, and they're very good at dive bombing freshly washed cars.